Thank you. A warm good evening to one and all. Now I invite Mr. Sandit Tandasheri, our MC member and chairman, Startup Forum. He is the founder CEO, Navagadi Marine, Novolt Solar and Electric Boats, X-Ships Analytics. I also wish to inform you that his company made the first solar boat which won the Limca Book of Records for the fastest solar boat in India in 2011. I invite you, Mr. Sandit Tandasheri, to deliver your welcome address.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the inauguration of KMA Startup Forum. I'm Sandit Tandasheri and chair of this forum. And on behalf of KMA, I'd like to thank all guests present for gracing this occasion. We have our chief guest for the evening, my good friend, Abhilash Krishna, and who will be formally introduced by one and only Sri S.R. Nair. We have our president, Srimati L. Nirmala, and our honorary secretary, Sri Aljiz Khalid. You might all be wondering what KMA can do in addition to what organizations like TIE, CIA, FICCI, KSIDC, and other organizations who are doing very well for startups. Like, while they are doing great, in our engagement in the last year, I think we had about 60 startups conversation with, I think, which was led by Sri S.R. Nair. And it was realized that many of the startups need a bit more detailed engagement and very specifically beyond a normal mentoring and in multiple specialized areas. And that can possibly be done by an organization like KMA, which is an organization of professionals in the member forum. So hence we decided to start this forum, and I'm fortunate to be the chair this year. My aim for this year is to utilize the strength of KMA specialist members for the benefit of all startups. And we have a great lineup of events this year. And today we have our presidential address by Madam L. Nirmala, and then introduction of the chief guest by Sri S.R. Nair. And the formal introduction will be done and a keynote delivered by Abhilash Krishna. And finally, word of thanks by our secretary, Sri Aljiz Khalid. You will all have a fantastic session ahead and enjoy the evening. I hand over to our president, Srimati L. Nirmala, to give the presidential address. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sandit. Chief guest of the day, Mr. Abhilash Krishna, KSTech co-founder and CEO. Mr. Sandit Tandasheri, chairman, Startup Forum. Former president, Mr. S.R. Nair. Our honorary secretary, Mr. Aljiz Khalid. Executive committee members, managing committee members, past president, KMA members, invited guests, students, and ladies and gentlemen. A warm good evening and a hearty welcome once again to the inaugural function of our Startup Forum. Mr. Abhilash Krishna, it is our pleasure to have you again at KMA. Thank you for accepting our invitation to inaugurate our Startup Forum and to address us. Today, we are inaugurating the activities of Startup Forum of KMA. We are designing a series of programs specially curated for startup members. Our startup mentor, who is instrumental in bringing the idea of Startup Forum to KMA, will talk to you shortly. That is Mr. S.R. Nair. We suggest that all the startup members to become part of our Startup Forum and avail the benefits. For more information about the startup membership, please contact our secretariat. Now, KMA office has started functioning at the new building, but the state-of-the-art building will be inaugurated soon. The Kerala government has aimed to create over 15,000 startups and 2 lakh jobs in emerging technologies in the next 5 years. The state has plans to set up an emerging technology startup hub in Tirunelveli and Kochi. Startup being the future of the country, Kerala is committed to provide the right ecosystem. Our startups have raised 3,200 crores as equity investments since 2015. Various government initiatives such as IEDC, that is Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development Centers for colleges, YIP, Young Innovators Program, programs for incubation and acceleration, corporate innovation, and so on, have made Kerala the best place to start and grow enterprises. Kerala has built a unique model to nurture startup from ideation to the scale-up stage. The government is dedicated to fostering global entrepreneurship to strengthen the startup community in the state as well as across the nation. The goal is to create an environment where the passion meets the purpose to learn, network, bridge the gap between business, expose potential, and see actual result. Amidst the pandemic-induced economic downturn, new startups were launched and existing ones adapted. As per Kerala Startup Mission, the nodal agency of the Kerala Government of Entrepreneurship Development and Incubation Activities, over 400 new companies have registered since 2020. Startups from the state received close to 500 crores in 2020, according to KSUM. It is true that not all startups have done well. Not all startups have done well. At the same time, funding is coming in for few ventures that have shown resilience and have adapted to the change of scene. So that's all from me now to brief about KMA, what KMA can do for Startup Forum and introduce our chief guest. I invite our former president, Director Mentor Guru, adjunct faculty in various colleges, author, serial entrepreneur, Mr. S.R. Nair. Over to you, sir. Mr. Nair, you are muted. Sir, you are muted.
Unmute. Am I audible?
You are.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, Nirmala, President and Chairman of today's meeting, Chairperson of today's meeting, Madam Nirmala Lily, respected past presidents, distinguished members, and I see many of the managing council members also here. I also recognize many of the startup entrepreneurs here too. A warm good evening to all of you. Fundamentally, this communication that I am giving ideally should have been done by our Senior Vice President, Mr. Balakrishnan, who's not here today. He has gone to Dubai and he's engaged there. And because the genesis of the Startup Forum, even though it started with the StartCon conversations that we have had last year, during which we were able to also get Mr. Balakrishnan to address our people. The Startup Forum was conceived by Mr. Balakrishnan, and we started the right earnest. Since we didn't have a membership protocol within KMA bylaw, we had to create a Startup Forum membership, and that all has been done. And today we are all set to start the KMA Startup Forum, which Sandit Tandashiri is chairing it. And this is the first meeting. It's an online meeting. We shall be having many offline meetings. Some of them may be concentrated at Kerala Startup Mission, as well as we are talking to KSIDs and others as to where we can take this to the startup entrepreneurs. Now, you must have seen a plethora of organizations already available. On the regulator side, there is Kerala Startup Mission. On the assistant side, there are KSIDC, KFC, etc. Now, I'm really seeing this another institute that is called Kerala Institute of Entrepreneurship Development, which was already existing for the last 20 years, but it was running very bureaucratically. Now, with the new person called Sharath Raj, who has taken charge, it is doing human services as far as startup engagements are concerned. We have on the NGO side, we have THAI, the Indus Entrepreneurs Kerala chapter, which was co-founded by me also. And now I see a new entrant called Kerala Startup Network, which was started by Anil Balan and others, which have high membership. We have Kerala Angel Network, we have Malabar Angel Network, and we have many other organizations within the state of Kerala to help startups, startup as well as scale up as far as their endeavors are concerned. So the idea of starting a KMA Startup Forum is not to compete with any of these organizations, but to be complementary to their endeavors in nature. Now, why we started this is while doing the StartCon, we realized that there were certain gaps as far as the startup people are concerned, and that gap was specifically related, generally related to mentoring and specifically related to subject matter. Many of the people, many of the startup the persona had talked to us while we were interviewing them as doctors, telling that the specific areas of HR, specific areas of finance, specific areas of operations, specific areas of marketing, etc. They would like to have our assistance, or they would like to get expert opinion and expert advice. Most of the startups, of course, Abhi and all have been working before he started up, and he has traveled across the country, across the world before that. So he has fairly good idea about startup and things like that. But many of the other startup who had actually started up in Kerala had just come out of the campus and began. So they definitely do lack many nuances of specific function matters, subject matters. And we thought, okay, when we were talking to the StartCon entrepreneurs in the last year, we realized that the subject matter expertise is like. And in KMA, we have a plethora of individuals, people who are either superannuated or people who are already working, people who are experienced. KMA also has a fairly good number of entrepreneurs as part of its membership. So we thought, why don't we channelize these efforts to give those level of assistance to startup, because startup is a flair of the day, startup is a fare of the day. So with that here, we have started the Startup Forum, and Sandit, it is in the able hands of Sandit Dandasheri. I'm sure he'll be able to take it forward in many endeavors and many efforts and things like that. Okay, that being the case, I'll just briefly introduce. There are two ways of introducing people. Normally, what happens is some people will write long resumes and hand it over to be read. Our man Abhi or Abhilash Krishna is not like that. He is a karma yogi, manufactured. Okay, and sometimes I feel that he's a hyper manufactured. Okay, that, like, who doesn't mind traveling tens of thousands of kilometers just like that. So I will briefly introduce him. We will know more about him as he speaks, and that is the right introduction, Abhi, that we can have of you. Okay, now just to give you a small introduction of you, Abhi, Mr. Abhilash Krishna. Okay, he's an engineer. He's people used to call mechanical engineers used to call themselves as Royal Mech. So he's a mechanical engineer. Okay, he's a co-founder and CEO of KStack. KStack is on a mission to pioneer the digital transformation of the dental industry and enable dental establishments to operate at their highest potential. KStack is in its 7 years of existence, has grown and become a highly valued company, and been able to raise a capital in excess of 1,000 million US dollars. Okay, and they have development centers in Trivandrum, Cochin, Bangalore, maybe more, but I'm not very sure. But Abhilash will tell you. And now sales footprint across continents. So when I was talking to him last, he was in Australia. Now he's in actually Florida, USA, and soon you will see him in Australia. That means he is actually extending his organizational reach into customers located in all continents. Yeah, that is about Mr. Abhilash Krishna and KStack. We would now hand over the podium to Mr. Abhilash Krishna to place his thoughts before us. If there is time permitted, we can have some 2-3 questions. But since he has to catch a cab to go to his client meet, so we will see how we can actually go about with this. Abhi, it's all yours. You could take on.
Sure. Thanks, Asar, for a great introduction. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay. So thanks for having me here as part of this gathering. Okay. So that's for the starts. When it comes to addressing startups and startup founders, I kind of feel like I give my 10th board exams, and a kind of anxiety and unpreparedness takes me over for some strange reason. And I have given a thought as to what do I need to tell these folks, and what strikes me is this whole process of building a startup, right? It can be best summarized as a social experiment that people get into, and they are trying to chase a model of growth as an outcome of that experiment, right? And the funniest part is that this experiment doesn't have any definite start, end, or rules. Okay, so it's 3 things. One is it's a social experiment to begin with, which means you're trying to take a concept or an idea, and then you're trying to experiment it with a diverse range of people who are part of different kinds of cultural settings, right? So that's the first one. The second piece is, you're trying to eventually get to a model of growth. So growth permeates everything that you do in the startup world, right? Whether it be building a product or finding team members or, setting up operations, raising capital. A growth mindset literally permeates all of these actions. And then the third bit is, it's an infinite game. It's not finite. It's not like a game of cricket where you have a start and an end and a winner. Startups are unlike finite games. It's an infinite games. You only drop out of this game when you have lost your personal will or resources. Till then, you can play this game, right? To the extent that the only other infinite game that I know is life itself, right? So it's just like life. And that's why you always kind of come to this conclusion that building a startup is as synonymous to living your life. So for something which is so complex and diverse, I find it very tough to comment to startup founders and to people engaged in this journey from a pedestal of authority, because it's extremely unpredictable. What is possible at its best, at least for someone like me, is to probably synthesize my learnings of building CareStack and kind of give a framework of thought for everybody to think over, right? So that's the premise, right? So so with that being said, if you ask me about our journey, I would kind of compartmentalize it into 4 stages, right? Stage 1 is kind of where I would say that we earned our right to start an organization like CareStack, right? So looking back, right, in retrospective, I can kind of summarize by saying that, for anyone, especially for someone like me, to have really started an organization which or earning the right to start something like CareStack deserve nothing more than a hell of a lot of confidence and ignorance, right? So you don't really care about most things. You've just observed an opportunity. You just don't know, any of the downstream implications of chasing that opportunity. You are driven by an insane amount of confidence. You are as ignorant. You're on the peak of ignorance, and then you just decide to do it, right? So that's good enough. That gives you the right to start. But for having gained the right to start doesn't necessarily mean that you have gained the right to stay. Okay. Gaining your right to stay is a different function, right? Because now you come in touch with reality, right? Your ignorance starts waning, and you start becoming wiser. You start seeing the hurdles, you start seeing the roadblocks, you start seeing the challenges for what it is. At which point in time, in my case, what gave me the right to stay was 2 traits, right? One is a deep amount of obsession, and then also, perfecting the art of timing a decision, mostly through trial and error, but getting better at it every time I had to make one. So let me just explain on both those points. So obsession is kind of like key, because you got to really think about everything in detail, right? You get down to the details. You have crossed the stage of just operating on wishful thinking born out of your ignorance and confidence. Now it's all about details. So you obsess about everything. And it could be obsession from the color of your office walls to a feature that goes into the product to the kind of people you hire. And it doesn't matter whether I was good at these details or not, or at these subjects, but the obsession was really there. You go to sleep thinking about the smallest things that you observed. You unwind your day, you rewind your day, you just think about what you have gone through that day, right? And you obsess over the details. It's not just passion, it's like obsession to I would say, to a fault, right? And the second one is really what makes this whole process difficult, which is really mastering the art of timing a decision. So besides obsession, for you to gain your right to stay, you have to really learn to make or time the decisions appropriately. So there are so many decisions you will have to make as you come face to face with reality. It could be decisions like, okay, what kind of product do I build? What kind of people do I hire? Do I just go ahead and hire a sales team out of the gate? Do I need a CTO? How much money do I raise? So you have all these decisions that happens, right? The problem with these decisions is if you mistime these decisions, then you're going to end up in trouble. What it means is, let's say you hired a sales team before you got your product right. It simply means that you're going to lose money on your sales team, and you're going to lose the customers, but because your problem is not going to be solved by the product, right? On the same token, if you're going to basically hire a CTO without enough engineers to manage, then you're going to have to basically spend time managing the CTO rather than getting your product along the way, right? So there are so many decisions that you will have to make that allows you the right to stay. The tricky part of this whole process is that there is no playbook which gives you the right way to make these decisions. It's probably some 200 million ways to get these decisions wrong. Okay, so earning your right to stay is a function of how well you're able to time decisions. In our case, much of these decisions were based on prioritizing progress over perfection, and in some case, excellence over progress, right? But most case, just prioritize progress over perfection. So that's how we earned our right to stay. Now, the third stage of our growth is kind of where we are in today, which is really where we have earned our right to compete. I say so because CareStack is one of the known brands amongst what exists in our industry. We are considered as a credible enough competitor to the rest of the incumbent systems that have been in market for the last 100 years or so, right? Companies which have been around forever. So we are regarded as a credible enough competitor. The market has given us that brand recognition, and also we have the referential integrity to clearly state that we have earned our right to compete. So how did we get there, right? So besides the mechanics of it, so I'm going to focus more about the philosophy and the thought behind how we got there, right? So earning the right to compete was really happening because somewhere along the way we sharpened our skills to look inward, right? So as we have learned to make decisions and as we have developed a sense of obsession, you also start looking inward, who you are, right? What is your purpose that is residual for the time you're building the company and beyond. So you start asking these questions which are deeply inward looking, and those contemplations leads you to answers that allows you to position yourself externally. So for you to go external, it's very, very important that you go internal first, right? So that's what allows you the right to compete. So as a result of looking inward and finding our purpose, and knowing who we are at its core level, we were able to really define a promise that we wanted to serve to our customers, and thus the brand philosophy of CareStack was born, which is to really do more for our customers than what they pay us for, which in turn, shaped the way we built the product, to the way we hired people, to the way we set up operations, all with the end objective of giving the customer way more than what they pay us for, right? Now, this has had like a flywheel effect to the extent where customers start talking about the brand. So when they hear the brand CareStack, it's just not software systems that comes into their mind. It's also the feeling that we have a partner who is willing to do more for us than what we have been used to, right? So that's how we earned our right to compete. And finally comes earning our right to lead. So we are not there yet. And in my mind, earning the right to lead is something that you don't get in perpetuity. Okay, you don't get that in perpetuity. You have to earn it every day, every week, every month, every year. It's something that you will have to keep. You cannot take it for granted. And you actually forfeit your right to lead the day you think that you don't have to be transformative anymore. You don't have to be innovative anymore, right? You just forfeit your right to lead when that happens. And so what we feel will allow us to nurture this constant gene of innovation and, of being transformative, whether it's on the product or on the human capital that we continuously keep accumulating within the companies, to practice a certain level of impermanence when it comes to leadership at every level. That we build a company which goes beyond its leaders, right? That everybody has a space to continuously contribute to a desired outcome, irrespective of whether they spend time with us within their tenure or not, right? So our right to lead is really dependent on our ability to build a culture of impermanence among leadership and transcend our work culture, where leaders are not the future of the company, but people are all inherently desiring to contribute in ways that they can make CareStack better than the spot where they found CareStack, right? So that's what creates us, gives us our ability or our right to lead. So that's kind of the stages of how we can categorize our path in this infinite game, right? So that's the framework of thought. So for all the startup founders, your startup folks involved in this gathering, you guys have to know that you're all infinite players, having signed up to be part of a game that has no start, end, or no rules. You signed up for it, okay? So along with this game comes a hell of a lot of surprises. Some of these surprises that is going to shake you and change you in ways that you never thought about yourself. It's just going to happen. While that happens, just make sure that you can be, you learn to take some pleasure and play out of it. Get as playful as you can, right? So because at the end of the day, you signed up for this game, okay? And the only rule that you need to keep in mind, as these stages of getting the right to compete, or getting the right to start or stay, compete, lead, as just like me, you're going to get to these stages. So the only rule that should be your compass is that there is no rule, right? So with that, I think I want to keep this conversation very brief and precise, and open up the floor for any questions.
Abhilash, one thing. Since this is the inauguration of the Startup Forum, you have to make a sentence saying that you hereby inaugurate the Startup Forum. After that, we will indulge you in the questions.
I think,
Yeah,
I think there is a virtual inauguration. Jojo?
Is there anything virtual happening?
Virtual, yes. Jojo, is it ready? Yes.
My God.
What do I need to do?
You can declare.
No, after lighting, you can just say officially inaugurate.
Thank you, Jojo. Yeah, boss, okay. You could do that now.
Yeah. So I inaugurate this forum, and I wish everybody the best, and may all the success happen to the members of the forum, and let's have a thriving ecosystem in the state.
Thank you, Abhi. It has been so sweet and short. Some people call it as a cookie. You have done a very cookie inaugural meeting and discussion. Okay. It was very philosophical in nature. It was generally very philosophical in nature. You started saying about a social experimentation called startup endeavor. Then you said about your right to start, and then right to stay, that is exist, and right to compete, and right to lead, and the right to lead being, I mean, looking at it every second, every hour, every day, every week, and every month, and so on. So, because the right to lead is not in perpetuity handed over to you. I understand. So, very, very well said. And I hope all that what you said about the philosophy, you must have transferred or you must have implanted into your organization. We see your organization growing very rapidly across continents and across the places. So definitely, I'm sure that whatever you thought about your organization, you must be internalizing all your thoughts into the organizational culture. And you ended by saying that actually it is important for you to have a unique organizational culture wherein the people's contribution matters much more than the leader's contribution. And you also said that, okay, it is delivering the customer way more than what she expects. That's actually what you've said as far as you're adding the value to the market is concerned. All that is good. Now, we would definitely like to know a little more about CareStack in terms of its expansion. We have talked to you about a year back, which you said that, okay, at that point of time, the last stages of funding, etc., was not discussed because it has not happened. So if you can tell us as to where is CareStack now? I mean, it's so that we could say that ഞങ്ങളുടെ അഹങ്കാരമാണ് അഭി എന്ന് പറയത്തക്ക രീതിയിലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ നടക്കുന്നുണ്ടെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. So if you are able to tell us, we'll be very glad to take it. Please.
Yeah, no. So early part of this year in April, we got invested from probably the world's largest dental implant manufacturer based out of Switzerland, a company by the name Straumann. They manufacture implants, which goes as part of oral surgery. And they're the market leader in implant manufacturing and clinical excellence.
All right.
So they picked a very strategic stake at CareStack, and then along with the money came a commercial agreement where they resell and distribute CareStack to a very large customer base in US and to other parts of the world, starting with Singapore, Australia, moving on to Spain, UK, Canada, etc. So right now we are in the process of making sure
since that's a large organization, you could be piggy riding on them as far as expansion is concerned. Is that right?
That's correct. So we are setting up our processes, hiring more people, just so that we can deliver on these contractual commitments that we have executed to Straumann as part of the strategic partnership. And that's pretty much why you see us hiring across the board, and we look for talent, right? And people who want avenues for maximizing their potential. We are trying to attract as much of those folks as possible.
All right. Now, so that actually make me ask you a question which I should have asked first. Is have you been able to get to the market a product which is delivering way more than the customer asked?
Yeah. At this point in time, we are probably the only company in dental which is constantly innovating and which is really bothered about the status quo more than anybody. Our intent is so intact, so it bothers us, right? That the market doesn't have simple solutions yet, and that's our driving force, and that's why we exist. CareStack is one company which is all about the product. The product permeates everything that we do. Everything else is immaterial from our perspective if we don't keep the product at the very epicenter of everything that we think about when it comes to customers.
Great. Now, people in this group could put your questions in the chat mode. I can take it up and identify you and actually ask Abhilash on your behalf. So let us do that. He still have about 15-20 minutes more for that cab to come and pick him up. So that is actually he has given to us as our time. So let us use it productively. And I see many of the stalwarts here as well as many young entrepreneurs. But while they prepare their questions and put it on the chat mode, Abhilash, yes, I understand that you're actually very philosophically given this this sort of a guidance to startup entrepreneurs about the right to start and right to stay and right to compete and right to lead, etc. Uh, uh, if you really, see, as you say, it's a social experiment, and every experiment you also see a lot of struggle that happens, and you also had mentioned about that, lots of struggle that happens in that experimentation process. Now, I have so many people that I come across on day in and day out across over the last 5 to 7 years time. No, I must have personally seen about 500, 600 of them at many phases of their organization, including that of closure phases. So if you really want to give them a, let's say, a small piece of an advice, of course, you're given more than what is necessary in terms of the philosophical way by which that you're answered. But what is it that actually these struggling people, and we also understand that this experimentation has only 5%, less than 5% success rate. All of us know about this. So in a social experimentation where there is only less than 5% of success rate. So all these aspirants, now we have in Kerala, we have more than 2,500 of the registered people. What's your one singular advice that if you want to give?
It goes back to what I was saying, right?
Yeah.
This is not a finite game.
Mm.
It's simply not a finite game. It's not a game that you play to win. That unlike a game of cricket or chess or football, where you have two teams competing and eventually one of them wins within a window of time, startups are not like that. What you're building is really an infinite game where you're playing to be in the game, right? And there is no compulsion that you're playing to win. So that's the mindset that you need to have. You're an infinite player, sometimes being forced to play a finite situation as it happens along the journey.
Okay. All right. I have a question from Sandit. Yeah. You go ahead. I'm sorry, Abhilash.
So what it means is your success is not really measured until you become a materially important business, right? What matters for you as you play this finite game is, are you constantly in a growth mode? Are you growing? Are you doing the right things to grow, right? And are you able to basically have enough of will and resources to be on that path of growth as it's not a situation where you measure yourself by arbitrary metrics that do not matter. It simply comes down to growth, finding the resources and the will to basically play it. And I say this not just when you are in your early stages, but across your journey, even at $50, $100 million, that's the mindset you have, right? And that's the nature of this game. So nobody's on your throat to basically get you down to a finite objective. What it means is when you lose the will and the resources, you can stop this game. You are at your will, right? So mentally uncheck yourself that you have to get to an outcome, because that's not what this game is meant for. It's not played with a finite timeline, right? Sometimes these timelines could go as high as 15, 20 years. And there could be buyer's remorse at the end of it based on how you dealt with those 15 years. But then remember that you signed up for it. So the only thing that you need to probably develop is playfulness, right? Just get playful to the extent that you can actually continue doing this for an infinite amount of time if needed. And if you don't develop playfulness, you're going to basically, land yourself into all positions of stress, unnecessary stress, and all for something that you signed up for. Nobody forced it down your throat, right? You signed up for it. So develop the skill for being playful, and playful with all the surprises, most of them not so nice, that you're going to get along the way, and develop this mindset to play it for an infinite amount of time. Not just when you're a startup, but be in that startup mode, even when you're a materially important business.
I appreciate, very well said. In fact, one could actually write a 300-page book on this infinite nature of the thing. But the fact is that you see, many of these people that I see, they are really worried about the resources, and particularly vitamin M, the vitamin money. Many people say that money is there, but many often money is not there. So maybe in your case, have you been able to, or have you been fortunate to, or have you been lucky to, or the providence has given you the connect, or how is it? I mean, or it just came to you. I would like to know, because there is 95% people who actually go back to the drawing board or go back to their employment. There is always this game that all the questions that we ask, where did I go wrong?
That's my whole point, SR. So, much of this game comes down to the art of perfecting your decisions. So the key to managing resources is to be artful about timing your decisions. So do you need to build the best product, or do you need to build a good enough product? And there's no right or wrong decision. Either one could be a decision. One needs to optimize for what one is solving for, right? Do I hire the best sales guy in the town who is basically going to help me grow, or am I going to grow this slow by organically building capabilities within what I have on hand, right?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be effectual about it? That's another decision, right? So you make all these decisions. Art of raising capital and art of allocating capital is intricately tied to your art of timing decisions. And there's no right or wrong way to time yourself in or out, right? There's probably a million ways to get it wrong. That's what makes this difficult, right? And much of that comes out of life experiences. Much of that comes about introspection. It comes from travel, observation, humility to take a few punches, learn. It's a function of subjecting yourself willfully to these circumstances to the extent that only thing that matters is your personal transformation over time. Everything else, you're just bound to take it because, like I said, it's a game that you signed up for.
Right. And an infinite game. Now, Sandit, our chairman, has actually put a question here. He says, mostly we start with a niche and reach point of right to lead. The next step is a broader market and then start the process again. What about your strategy beyond being the leader in the dental software?
No, we are vertically inclined to just do it for dental, and that's about it, right? So, company like CareStack is built for a reason, right? Along the way, as things get clear, you develop a path for how you want to position the company in its present and into the future, right? And then you gain clarity around that, right? And so you choose to probably say no to 99% of things that comes in your way once you have gained that clarity, and you keep your focus and your resources and your time intact on that 1% where you want to just double down and excel. So for us, our journey is in this vertical, and it's a deep enough value chain that cuts across various segments of this vector, of this sector. So we have enough and more work to do in this sector for the next 7 years to just for the starts.
You're saying that singular focus and not getting digressed into things, particularly at the beginning, as you're trying to consolidate in the early stages, right? Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot more work to be done. We are just getting started, and it's more like day one.
There's another question from Mr. Sunil Karta. He's asking, would like to know if CareStack caters to B2B segment or B2C, or a hybrid of both?
B2B.
B2B. Sunilji, that is B2B. Okay.
We have a product which we sell to dental offices.
Okay.
And
dental offices, dental organizations, actually.
Yeah, and they
does
pay
the
us
dental organizations in the US and the Europe work like the Indian dental clinics, or how is it?
No. They're very workflow driven, right? Which means you have very specific systems through which a patient gets checked in, a specific set of protocols they follow while treating the patient, while collecting money from the patient, while raising insurance claims, while managing the business through a set of reports and key performance indicators. There is a very specific set of workflows that these organizations follow.
Yeah.
So it's a more scientific way of. So in a very defined manner, right? A dental business is not really a healthcare business. It's really a manufacturing business, because the way you make money is by selling crowns, bridges, and implants. You manufacture that in lab. Your dentist is the guy who fits it, and the patient pays, right? So that's why patients choose to buy between an iPhone and doing an aesthetic dentistry. So dentistry is really to be thought about as a manufacturing business. Now, once you're able to think about it as a manufacturing business where products are produced and services delivered and it's sold over the counter, then it fundamentally comes down to understanding or distilling that business into an equation. So how does a dentist make money? It is simple mathematical equation, right? It's the number of appointments multiplied by the average revenue per appointment. So they have devised systems to increase the number of appointments and to increase the average revenue per appointment.
Okay.
That's what it comes down to. It's a systemic way of operating the business.
Scientific and
By
systemic
a
way.
simple mathematical equation.
Understand. We have a question from Dr. Abhila. So he says, gratitude for an enriching session on startup, and that too on much complex healthcare sector, which is more service oriented than product dependent. How did you or CareStack during its initial go-to-market stage walk the prime hurdle which healthcare practitioners themselves? Or how did you convince the healthcare professionals to use our technology product when they themselves are less tech savvy?
Yeah, it fundamentally comes down to qualification of pain.
Okay.
So you have to be very disciplined as to who you sell to, right? And you have to really learn to conserve what you have most, which is time. So for example, you have a large market, right? You need to have a methodical way of figuring out who is your customer that you can methodically take live and who will derive value out of the product, which allows you to interact with a lot of customers, but focus on a sales process that qualifies customers into buckets organized by the degree of pain that they currently undergo, and then focus on figuring out how much of your product can alleviate that pain and methodically bring those customers to use your product. So the art of really gaining early customers lies in your ability to construct a process that qualifies pain from a huge portfolio of people that you will meet out there. It's your ability to identify pain and channelize those people into a process where then you can go into an exploratory path of how much of that pain can you solve using your product, so that these guys who are direct recipients of the benefits of your product end up being your next set of sales guys who will get you more customers. So it's a very clear, precise process for understanding your pain funnel from a customer perspective, and then solving that pain and turning your early set of customers to become your best salespeople.
Right. I really like the way you put across the dental industry, they being you conceiving it as a manufacturing industry rather than the service industry. That's great. Now, I haven't seen other questions here. I mean, Dr. Abhilasha, okay. This is Sunil Karta telling that, thank you. I had a stint with DentCare, India's largest manufacturer of dental prosthesis. That is Kuriako's company, I believe, at Muatupura. Okay, that's good. Before I hand you over to President for the conclusion and thereafter, Sandip, do you want something to say?
That's all I have.
Okay, fine. Okay, so it was very crisp and nice and highly philosophical. So that is where we are now. We will chase you. We will try to understand you more. It's like an average Mallu does, you know. For every Mallu who progresses, we say he is ours. Only when he has challenges that we say, I always thought that he will actually buckle the thread. So that's the way. So we will let God be with you. I mean, let your business and industry and your company flourish. All the very best from personally myself and the group of people who are here. We really like the presentation, like the way that you presented things to us in a manner that, because startup people presentations are much different from the way that you have done. So I hand you back to Madam Nirmala Lily for the rest of the session. Madam, yours.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. S.R. Nair, for introducing and interacting with our chief guest in a flawless manner. It is always pleasure listening to you, Mr. Abhilash Krishna, and thank you for inaugurating our startup forum and also for addressing us. Many lessons were there: right to stay in spite of challenges, deep amount of obsession, mastering the art of time, art of taking decision, art of raising capital, prioritize progress over position, philosophy of looking inward, who you are, internal first, finding your purpose and core values, right to lead, earn it every day, every week, every month. All of us are infinite players. Get as playful as you can. Thank you very much. And now some announcement. Please block your calendar, the following dates. Phoenixopreneur, presenting entrepreneur with the innate strength and ability to raise out of nothingness, including one's own ashes, on 27th 2022 by Mr. T.R. Shamshuddin, founder, Blockbuster Technologies Private Limited. And on 25th August, Digital Summit.
Yeah, we have time for that.
Yes, and on 26th August, IMA SYMB. Please do come. We would love to meet you, see you on online.
Yeah, Madam President, we will have many evening sessions before that. I mean, these two are very predestined meetings, but every month we will have 3-4 monthly meetings, right?
Yeah, many more in the pipeline. The date is not fixed. That's why I did not announce. Thank you. Now I invite there are many people joined us from various places. I could even see Dr. Ushi joining us. And so thank you so very much for joining us. And now I invite our Honorary Secretary, Founder, Povat International, Mr. Algiers Khalid, to propose a vote of thanks, please.
President Nirmala Lilly, our invited guest speaker to inaugurate the forum, Abhi Krishna, co-founder and CEO of KS Tech, Chairman of KMA Startup Forum, Sandeep Tandasheri, Past President S.R. Nair, Galaxy of Past Presidents of KMA, Managing Committee, and KMA members. Today, we witnessed the commencement of a forum exclusively for the startup companies based on the requirements of the ecosystem identified last year by KMA. Thank you all for your online presence for the beginning of yet another excellent initiative of KMA to encourage startups and for them to share their valuable experiences as beautifully articulated by President Nirmala Lilly in her introductory remark. Thank you, Mr. Abhi Krishna, co-founder and CEO of KS Tech, for sparing your valuable time once again at KMA, and this time for joining online far away from Florida to officially inaugurate the forum, and also for sharing your valuable experience. It was very fascinating to hear your startup journey as a social experiment on a concept with growth mindset for an infinite game with a mission to remain in the game, and all the predicaments and the challenges during the journey to take the right decision all the way. Indeed, very philosophical. We highly appreciate for sharing your thoughts based on valuable experience of building KS Tech. On behalf of KMA, let me wish you success to scale even greater heights. Maybe next unicorn in the making, which every Mallu will be proud of, with beautiful smile, with dental crowns without pain. Godspeed, good luck, and God bless to you and KS Tech in digital transformation in dental industry.
Yeah.
Special thanks to Chairman of Startup Forum, Sandeep Tandasheri, for this great initiative to start the new forum, and also for inviting the apt speaker for today, besides welcoming everyone for the event. I'm sure Startup Forum will have great programs and events in coming days under your leadership. Thank you, Sandeep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Past President S.R. Nair, for introducing the speaker so well, and more importantly, for sharing all about the genesis of the Startup Forum and also the concept and the idea behind starting this new forum, followed by an interesting Q&A. Thank you, SR. Thanks to all the past presidents, managing committee, and KMA members for attending this inaugural event of Startup Forum. We had very good attendance throughout the session. I'd also like to place on record and thank the KMA Secretary team led by our Executive Director, Lieutenant Jojo Jacob, and his team members, Prijit, Sandra, Ajmal, and Renson. Thank you all. Also, thanks to our program sponsors, Medivision and Varma Homes. They all play very important role in success of all the activities and programs of KMA. Before I conclude, I would like to request President Nirmala Lilly to virtually hand over the specially curated memento to our invited speaker of the day. Sir, this is a virtual version. The original will be couriered to you to remember your talk at KMA and cherish it. The photo on the memento is a real time from your talk today.
Okay.
Thank you, one and all. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Abhi, so we are relieving you 5 minutes earlier than scheduled.
Yeah, thank you.
6:55 Indian time. Take care.
Yeah.
All the very best. Be in touch.
Thank you, sir.
All the best to you all. Bye-bye.
Madam, I'll leave. I have an engagement.
Meeting is, yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. I'll just for